Hi.
Hello.
I'm Denisha.
I'm Ashley.
And we're just here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Of course, we are pre-recording, so it's not the love day just yet.
Soon.
But
Soon.
today is going to be our first episode that revolves around true crime.
Yep.
And we want to start by issuing a content warning, a listener warning, trigger warning.
Yeah.
This episode is going to be extremely disturbing, and it's going to go into topics such as sexual violence, torture, murder, and particularly crimes committed against minors.
Yeah.
So we understand that these are going to be difficult to listen to for some people. It may be deeply unsettling, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You have to take care of you.
Yeah. I was about to say, if you don't want to risk it, that's totally fine. We will catch you on the next episode.
Exactly.
Totally okay.
Your well-being is more important than an episode.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
We just want to issue that warning.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel like it's getting too much, feel free to step away, click away, do what you got to do. And like she said, we will see you on the next one.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So without further ado, let's get into the Ken and Barbie killers.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Alrighty.
It's the big one.
Yes, it is.
The crimes of Paul Bernardo and his wife, Karla Homolka, are among the most horrifying and controversial in Canadian history, particularly the 1990s sexual slings of two teenage girls, Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French.
So around 1 a.m. on May 4th, 1987, a young woman is attacked and raped within minutes of getting off a bus near her home in Scarborough. This was a series of up to 24 rapes or attempted murders that took place over a 5-year span of time. Targets of the man dubbed the Scarborough Rapist were teenage girls and younger women. Most of the attacks happen outdoors, but there is at least one instance of the man breaking into a home of a victim. These attacks were accompanied by beatings, intense verbal abuse, and threats to discourage victims from going to the police. Sick man. On November 17, 1988, Metropolitan Toronto Police formed a task force committed to the arrest of the rapist. Investigators did not get a solid lead until May of 1990, when a victim was able to provide them with a description of the attacker's face. That is 2 years after the task force was formed, and 3 years since the attacks started. That is so sad, first of all.
It took way too long.
Way too long. This description was used for a computer composite portrait and was given widespread circulation. Among the 16,000 responses received over the following weeks, there were 3 from people who said the portrait resembled Paul Bernardo. Investigators questioned Bernardo twice and believed he was not the suspect. I hate that. That seems to be a common occurrence with stuff like that, and that really irks my nerves.
And then they're like, oh, no, you're fine. You're good. And then find out later.
The fact that they questioned him more than once, and every time they're like, yeah, you're good, dude.
But that also just goes to show how deceiving some people can really be.
Yeah, it's... Ugh. Anyway, although they did take his DNA, including blood, saliva, and hair, at this point in time, DNA testing was so new to Canada that it only had one technician and one scientist qualified to do the testing. Well, that would explain why it took so long.
Yes.
In Paul's early life, he presented as a happy-go-lucky person, despite the growing tension in the home. Beneath his charm, however, there was a growing pyromaniac with dark sexual fantasies. One of these fantasies including creating a virgin farm where he would breed virgins, girls to rape.
That
was a very surprising thing to read.
Yeah, because I
have never heard of anybody else doing that.
Well, when I was familiar with the case, but not like all, and that one was one that I was not familiar with.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that, I was completely gobsmacked.
Mm-hmm. Like, the things that have to be going through this guy's mind to want to create like a whole commune, like a whole farm revolving around that type of thing.
But also to think that he
is giving Handmaid's Tale,
well,
but like
he thought so
minors.
little of women too that he basically said, "You're my animals."
Yeah, you're just my objects. Just sick, man. Anyway.
In college, Bernardo and his friends spent time picking up girls in bars. He enjoyed humiliating these girls in public and engaging in aggressive anal intercourse. He's threatened to kill them if they disclosed their abuse. In 1986, he was served 2 separate restraining orders after 2 different women received obscene phone calls from him. By December 23rd, 1990, Karla and Paul were engaged and living in her family's home. It's said that they become sexually obsessed with each other instantaneously, and unlike other girls, she encouraged his sadistic behavior. One article quotes Stephen Williams as saying, Karla, handcuffed on her knees and begging for him, was scratching an itch. Paul asked her what she would think if he was a rapist, and she said she would think it was cool. Their love deepened, and he started to rape women in earnest.
So she definitely fed into it.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's also a part that made it more, not prominent, but like it gave him like the, okay, someone else is giving me the okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's into this type of thing, so it must be okay for me to do.
It validated his sick desires.
Yes, yeah.
Ugh. December 23rd, 1990 is a tragic day as it is the death of Tammy Homolka. While the parents slept, Karla and Paul drugged the 15-year-old girl so that Paul could rape her, taking her virginity. Karla participated in and recorded this assault. The next morning, Tammy was still unconscious. She had vomited and she had stopped breathing. Karla and Paul dressed her, carried her to her bedroom, and then cleaned up the scene before calling 911. The ambulance took her to St. Catherine's General Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. Niagara Regional Police questioned Bernardo and Homolka, particularly about the unusual burn mark that she had on her face. They accepted Bernardo's explanation that it was carpet burn Tammy had sustained while he dragged her to the bedroom. The burn had actually been caused by an anesthetic called halothane administered to Tammy on a cloth pressed to her face. Doctors concluded that Tammy had choked to death on vomit after overindulging in alcohol, which is actually pretty freaking insane.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's insane for the fact that Karla participated in these acts against her own sister.
Yeah.
First
Tammy,
of all,
Tammy
that is
is
disgusting.
her sister. Tammy is one of her younger sisters.
Like it's a whole bad ordeal in the first place, but the fact that it was her own sister, that whenever I read that, I was like, "Oh my God." But the fact that she had already been dead overnight, brought into the hospital, and the hospital believed like, oh yeah, the burn on her face was just from him dragging her on the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
which, like, so
I get it, it's back then, but at the same time, it's like nowadays, I would think that they would be questioning.
That would be really
way
suspicious.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
She comes in. They could probably clearly tell that she had already been dead for overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has a burn mark on her face, and he's like, oh, that's just from me dragging her on the floor. First of all, home slice, why the fuck are you dragging her on the floor?
But also, wouldn't she have other burns on her body if it's carpet burn?
Yeah, not just her face, unless you're dragging her by her feet and it's just her face rubbing up against the floor.
But even then, you would imagine it would be like the whole face, not just designated where the mouth is.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it.
But to get carpet burn, like that has to be a lot of force, and you have to be dragging on that carpet for a good minute. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen just like
just a tiny little blip.
No.
And what's really crazy, and I don't think this is something that I mentioned when I was doing this. It might be mentioned later on down in the article, but since we're on Tammy Homolka right now, this was a Christmas present from Karla to Paul. I don't know if I told you that.
I think I remember you telling me that was being able to perform those acts on her was
taking her virginity was Karla's Christmas present to Paul. Her sister's innocence, basically.
Wow. Justice for Tammy.
Honestly.
Disgusting people. Anyway, on the 1st of February, 1991, Bernardo and Homolka moved into a bungalow in Port
I have no idea.
Dalhousie, Ontario. Apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. On Friday, June 14th, 1991, Paul took a girl home. While Karla slept, he began to videotape the 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey naked and blindfolded. When Karla woke up, she was very angry that Paul had used their best champagne glasses to entertain his new toy.
Honestly. Champagne, like that's what you're mad about.
Champagne glasses. Yeah. Yep. Finally, Karla came around and started being the obedient wife that Paul demanded. Paul gave Karla elaborate instructions on how to make love to Leslie. It was the voice of a director in an important film. Every moment had to be just perfect for the videotape he was making. After the prelude with Karla, Paul went in for the rough stuff, while his wife held the camera. The brute force of his anal penetration caused Leslie to scream in pain. The rough stuff escalated, and Leslie died. I can't imagine being just that
Messed up in the head.
messed up in the head that you just
You
get
get off
off
on that?
on
Well, and like
abusing people.
also, how can she, Karla, how can she watch it and not feel sick to her stomach?
Yeah, that just proves that she's just as sick in the head as he is. Oh my goodness. A couple canoeing at Lake Gibson on June 29th discovered concrete blocks that encased human arms, legs, feet, and a head. The next day, another man found a human torso floating in the water. The remains were identified as those of Leslie Mahaffey, 14, of Burlington, Ontario. Her parents had reported her missing on the 15th of June. While police undertook the investigation of the Mahaffey murder, Paul and Karla Bernardo were honeymooning in Hawaii. Police searching for clues to Mahaffey's killer were unaware of evidence that would connect the crime to the Scarborough rapist. I don't know why that's like a mouthful. Scarborough.
I think it's because it's such a long
Scarborough.
name.
I have issues.
We'd all do. Don't worry.
Were unaware of evidence that would connect the crime to the Scarborough rapist. Meanwhile, Tammy Homolka's death wasn't under criminal investigation at all. Almost a year later, in April of 1992, Niagara Regional Police sought help from the American Federal Bureau of Investigation. An FBI group of criminal profiling experts produced a psychological portrait of the murderer as a sexual predator who would probably kill again. Also, I did notice that as we were you were doing the research and I was reading along on some websites and stuff like that, that it was before they would find those that he did actually kill, it was like 2 weeks in between. Mm-hmm. It was always 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was never
So
instantaneously.
did he like hold them captive for the whole entire time and then finally kill them and then put the remains out?
So, in the unfortunate event that I watched the film, and we'll get into that later,
Yeah.
it shows where he basically has them kidnapped and like kept, and then whenever he's done with them, that's when he disposes.
Goodness gracious.
When he's no longer interested, I guess.
Yeah.
Shitty people. Mm-hmm. On April 30th, 1992, a female body was found in a ditch along a back road in the north end of Burlington. The face was battered and the hair had been shaved, but an old injury, the missing tip of the left pinky finger, immediately told investigators that the corpse was that of Kristen French, 15, of St. Catharines.
So I'm assuming she was already missing the tip of her finger?
Yeah, that was
So that was just the indicator?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was probably something that the parents had like mentioned.
Like she's missing the tip of her finger. Oh, wow. Okay.
French's parents had reported her missing on April 16th. A shoe identified as hers was found in the parking lot of Grace Lutheran Church, which she passed by every day going to and from school. Then a witness reported seeing a scuffle in the parking lot that afternoon of the 16th. It had appeared to the witness that two people were forcing a girl into a car she described as a cream-colored Chevrolet Camaro. Police searched the parking lot and found a torn fragment of a map of Scarborough and a lock of brown hair. They began an exhaustive check of cream-colored Camaros, following what turned to be a mistaken lead. Bernardo's car was a gold-colored Nissan. That's why you got to verify your sources, folks.
That really pisses me off. That really, really irritates me. Now, knowing myself, like if I was to see something like that happening, I probably wouldn't remember
Yeah, there's going to be
concrete
certain
details.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like if I was the police, I'd be looking for anything that was remotely close to even that type of car. But I mean, I guess you have to think back then too. Like they don't have the camelras out there. Mm-hmm. They don't. It's very, very unfortunate for these girls back then because like they don't have all of the high tech stuff now to help with investigations.
Acting on a tip that Bernardo had a penchant for violence and aggressive sex, police interviewed him on May 12th and once again dismissed him as a prime suspect in what were now being called the two schoolgirl murders of southern Ontario. Mahaffey's remains were exhumed, and a medical examiner found bruises on the back that had similarities to blunt force injuries on Kristen French's body. For the first time, police had connected the two murderers. Niagara Regional Police, working with the Halton Regional Police, established a special task force to conduct the investigation into the two crimes. On the 21st of July, a reenactment of French's abduction was shown on TV. It generated thousands of tips, but no substantial leads.
I didn't know that part.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well, not what they did to her afterwards.
Just to show them like
the
what would have
abduction.
happened. Oh. Wow. That's crazy that there was absolutely no leads. See, that's the difference between me and the person who called it in, because if I had seen something like that happening, like, of course I can understand not going up and approaching them because, like, obviously you don't want to get yourself, like, too involved where you can get yourself injured or killed. However, I would have been following that car.
Yeah. Or
while on the phone with the police.
Also.
Well, they didn't have cell phones.
I think
back
they had
then.
the brick cell phones. It's the 90s. You know what I mean? Like the Nokia.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I would assume that they would have to, like, go home, call the police, whatever. But yeah, dang, there were so many obstacles back then that would, like, really, really limit. Gosh, that irritates me. Imagine how much shit people got away with back then because of the limited tech and resources. On January 6th of 1993, Karla Homolka was admitted to St. Catherine's General Hospital after Bernardo beat her viciously with a flashlight. He was arrested and charged with assault with a weapon and then released on bail. Homolka never returned to the couple's house in Port Dalhousie. A month later, A month later, the Center of Forensic Sciences finally matched Bernardo's DNA with that of the Scarborough rapist. Police put Bernardo under surveillance and tapped his telephone. How many years was that in between? Like 2 or 3? Because in 1993 that happened, and then he started in 1990, I believe, right? 1987.
Yeah.
So this man had been on this rampage for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and he finally was arrested. Jesus. Homolka was initially uncooperative with the police. After consulting with her lawyer, she said that she would testify against Bernardo on the condition of being granted immunity from prosecution. The Attorney General for Ontario would not agree to immunity, but was willing to consider a reduced sentence. On the 17th of February, Bernardo was arrested for the murders of Mahaffey and French and the Scarborough rapes. Police subjected Homolka to 4 days of interrogation. She blamed Bernardo for her sister's death. She described how Bernardo had kidnapped Mahaffey from the yard of the girl's home and how she and Bernardo had lured French to their car in the parking lot. She said both girls were used as sex slaves before Bernardo strangled them to death. French had been made to watch a television news broadcast of her father's emotional plea for her safe return. Homolka claimed Bernardo had boasted to her of raping at least 30 women. Oh, my God.
Could you imagine? First of all, you're already scared out of your mind, hurt, and probably a bunch of other traumatic experiences, and then being forced to watch your dad beg for her return.
It's disgusting. Did you happen to put in here that one of these people was like Karla's coworker?
No, I did not.
So there was before I go any further, considering the fact that he's already been,
I did not mention that one. I
he's
forgot.
been what is the word?
Captured, kidnapped.
Captured.
I
Yes.
almost said
No.
kidnapped.
No.
Apprehended.
Yeah. So since he's already been caught, essentially, there was, and I don't know all the details about it. I do know that she had one of her coworkers come over, did the same thing that they did to Tammy. They drugged her, raped her, did all the things that Bernardo and her usually do. And then the next morning she woke up and she had no recollection of what happened, and she ended up leaving and was fine. But then it happened to her again. And I think it was the second time is whenever they killed her. I think they killed her. Didn't they kill her?
I think they killed her, yeah.
Yeah, but the first time she walked away because she just thought that she just got too drunk. And it was one of her coworkers.
It was a younger coworker too.
Yeah, she was a minor. I think she was like 16 or something like that. But it's just insanity. It's just crazy.
Homolka described herself as a battered wife who was forced to participate in Bernardo's crimes and who lived in terror of him. A search of their house turned up a list of the Scarborough rapes, books of deviant sexual nature, a hunting knife, handcuffs, and a videotape of Homolka and Bernardo engaging in sexual activity with 2 unidentified women. Homolka was clearly a willing participant in both encounters. She admitted to the police that one of the girls had been drugged and was later unaware that she had been raped.
Okay.
That was the
coworker.
On July 6th, 1993, as a part of her plea bargain with prosecutors, Homolka was convicted after pleading guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter in the Mahaffey and French murders. She was sentenced to 2 12-year prison terms to be served concurrently. Authorities weren't aware at the time that the initial police search of the Bernardo residence had missed a bundle of videotapes, tapes that would prove to be the most damning and public explosive evidence of the case.
Now, question. I don't really know how the whole entire justice system works, but even after they gave her sentence, after getting more evidence, would they not be able to tack on stuff?
At the time, signed, sealed, delivered. It would have to be a whole other
wow.
charge.
Okay, so that just goes to prove that people back then probably could have gotten away with a lot more than what they do now.
So think of it like if
because that was one of the things that was the most baffling to me. It's just like, yes, you gave her sentence, 12-year terms to serve together.
Yeah. So basically just 12 years.
Yeah. So like, why would you even put in there that she serves them concurrently?
Well, because it's 2 separate charges. So she was charged 12 years and 12 years, but rather than
should have got 24 years.
But rather than doing that, they serve them concurrently, which means they serve them together.
That's so dumb. But yeah, the fact that even after they gave her sentence and then found more evidence to prove that she wasn't unwilling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a signed, sealed, delivered situation.
That really
they would have had to do a whole other charge of some kind.
Bring her ass back to court. Give her more time.
On May 6th, 1993, Bernardo's lawyer had retrieved 6 8mm tapes that they had hidden in the Bernardo home. They were not turned over to police until the 22nd of September, 1994. So over a year.
That the lawyer kept them.
First
of all.
That's sus.
That's sus and that's icky. Anyway.
The tapes showed in graphic detail of the rape of Tammy Homolka and the torture and rapes of Mahaffey and French. Homolka appeared to be as Bernardo's consenting accomplice, not at all as the frightened forced participant. By this time, the case was dominating headlines and capturing the attention of people across North America. News of the tapes prompted public outrage, as it should.
Yeah.
The media accused prosecution of making a deal with the devil.
They did.
And giving Homolka only a 12-year sentence for her role in the crimes. However, the Crown said it was obliged to stand by its agreement. Karla was admitted into a psychiatric hospital for assessment where she was given heavy dosages of drugs and even asked to up her dosage because she was a vet tech, so she knew, drugs and their
side effects.
Eventually, Karla got up the nerve to write an important letter to her parents. And this shooketh me. Shooketh. I was shooketh. Because
shooketh.
I didn't even know this was a part of it.
Oh, shit.
So this is what she wrote to her parents. Dear Mom, Dad, and Lori, her other sister. This is the hardest letter I've ever had to write, and you'll probably all hate me once you read it.
As they should.
I've kept this inside myself for so long, and I just can't lie to you anymore. Both Paul and I are responsible for Tammy's death. Paul was in love with her and wanted to have sex with her. He wanted me to help him. He wanted me to get sleeping pills from work to drug her with. He threatened me and emotionally abused me when I refused. No words I can say can make you understand what he put me through.
No excuse.
So stupidly, I agreed to do as he said. But something maybe the combination of drugs and the food she ate that night caused her to vomit. I tried so hard to save her, and I am so sorry. But no words I can say can bring her back. I would gladly give my life for hers. I don't expect you to ever forgive me, for I will never forgive myself. Karla, XOXO.
XOXO.
Hugs and kisses.
That was, to me, insincere.
Yes.
And that to me was a way of her making herself feel better.
Yeah.
To
She could
clear her conscience.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anybody could read that and just the lies. It's just all lies.
It screams.
It's like, just because you write a letter to your family apologizing for what happened, and he did,
but not even really apologizing. She
blamed everything on Bernardo.
Yeah. Like, you went to work, you stole the pills.
Yeah.
You participated, not just watched, you weren't the innocent bystander. You participated.
Like, at that point, you knew what he was capable of. Your ass could have went to the police.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you really did not want to participate in that, your ass could have gone to the police while you're at work. Leave work, go to the police.
Mm-hmm.
No. Disgusting human being. And she is out.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, she is a free woman.
Ugh. All right. So jury selection for the Bernardo trial began on the 1st of May in 1995. The Crown opened its case on the 18th of May. The trial lasted 4 months, during which Homolka spent 17 court days in the witness box. Bernardo was found guilty of all charges against him: 2 counts each of first-degree murder, kidnapping, forcible confinement, and an aggravated sexual assault, and 1 count of committing an indignity to a human body.
1 count of that?
He was sentenced to life imprisonment and declared a dangerous offender, making parole highly unlikely. It shouldn't be a highly unlikely.
It should just be permanently
never
unlikely. Yeah. Never unlikely.
It should be
never likely.
never likely. Thank you. Thank you. 5 years later, in 2000, both the Ontario Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court of Canada turned down Bernardo's efforts to appeal his murder convictions. In 2006, Bernardo's lawyer said his client had confessed in 2005 to 10 additional sexual assaults. In 2013, he had been incarcerated at the Millhaven Maximum Security Prison in Bath, Ontario. The Bernardo Homolka crimes, apart from their impact on the victims and their families, had a wide-ranging impact long after the trials concluded. The videotapes showing the rape and the murder of their victims were ordered destroyed by the Ontario court, as they should be. But Bernardo's lawyer, Ken Murray, who initially retrieved the tapes from their hiding place in the Bernardo home, was charged in 1997 with obstruction of justice and conspiracy to obstruct justice for failing to turn the tapes over to the police. Murray was acquitted of those charges in 2000. Does that mean that it was like null and void? That motherfucker.
So technically he was charged for 3 years before they acquitted the charges.
All right. In 1996, a government inquiry into the investigation of Bernardo found that the police had made numerous mistakes. No shit. That rivalries among police agencies had further harmed the investigation, and that some of Bernardo's crimes might have been prevented if his DNA sample had been processed and matched more quickly. Really? Wouldn't have guessed. Karla Homolka served her full 12-year sentence and was released from prison in 2005 under a series of judge-imposed conditions, including restrictions on her movement and a ban on any contact with anyone under the age of 16. Those conditions were overturned by another judge only months later, prompting criticism from the Mahaffey and French families. Yep.
Yeah, I'd be pissed.
I'd be livid. Livid. Homolka settled in Montreal, where she gave birth to a son in 2007. First of all, I try not to wish ill on anybody, but I am very surprised that that woman is still alive.
Yeah.
To this day. I'm surprised no one has
put a hit on her or something.
So Homolka then lived on the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe under the name Leanne, don't care what her last name is, along with her new husband. Thierry, brother of her prison lawyer Sylvie, whatever the last name is, Lace, whatever, and her then 3 children in 2012 after being discovered in Guadeloupe by a Canadian journalist. Homolka returned to Quebec. Paul Bernardo became eligible for day parole in 2015 and full parole in February of 2018 after having served 25 years in prison. However, in October 2018, his application for both day and full parole was denied by a panel of the Parole Board of Canada after only 30 minutes of deliberation. As a dangerous offender, Bernardo will likely never be released, as he should not, and as Karla should have not.
Yeah, Karla should not have been released. No. So the last thing I want to breach on about this case is that in 2006, there was a film that caused significant controversy in Canada, where the families of the victims, Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey, initially said that the film exploited the memory of their daughters. Yeah. Politicians in the Legislative Assembly of Ontario, including Attorney General Michael Bryant, called for a boycott of the film. Mm-hmm. And one of the Canadian theater chains, Cineplex Odeon, stated that it would only show the film in its major urban markets in Toronto, Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, and Ottawa. The film was booked to debut in 2005 at the Montreal World Film Festival until a protest by Air Canada, a corporate sponsor of the festival, shelved the idea.
Why the fuck would they show that at a film festival?
I think because it was like an indie film or something like that, but still, there's no reason. There's absolutely no reason.
That is a terrible topic for an indie film.
Oh, yeah. Lawyer Tim Danson, who represented the French and Mahaffey families, watched a private screening of the film in September with the families in attendance. The following month, he announced that the families would not oppose the film's Canadian release.
So the family was okay?
So they say. No, I don't think they really were. I feel like they were kind of...
Do you think they like forced?
Yeah, I think they might have been caught in some kind of agreement.
The fact that people were profiting
off
of their family's
trauma.
Yeah. That...
Actor Misha Collins, who plays Bernardo, regretted being involved in the film after meeting a victim who escaped and has routinely told his fans not to see the film or bring him a DVD copy to be signed. It was also reported that Joel Bender, the director of the film, had found a lot of the torture scenes featured in the film to be hot.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Now, I do know also that Laura Pepron plays Karla in this movie. The movie is very geared to shed Karla in a innocent wife bystander forced into this situation,
which was not at all the case.
Not at all the case. That's why it received heavy criticism. Plus, that's a disgusting topic to talk. It's one thing for fiction. It's another thing to make something out of reality, especially something so traumatic. So they refuse to acknowledge the film. They don't approve of it. They don't want their fans to acknowledge it.
Well, I don't think they even knew that it was a real thing while they were filming
either. Because Misha, when he found out, if I remember correctly, he sought out the victims' families to profusely apologize for his hand in the film. Yeah. And like actors, once they're
I wonder if he still took money from...
I want to say he donated it to the families, but I could be mistaken.
See, that's what I would do. Because, like, if I ended up doing a film and then ended up finding out later on that it was based off of true events.
Because that's another thing. They didn't know at the time that when they signed on that it was based off of a Canadian.
I don't think Misha Collins would do that in the first place. And so, yeah, if I was to find out that that was based off of true events and the family was really kind of not okay with it, but probably forced into, allowing them to proceed with that. Yeah, any money that I would make off of that film, I would immediately be just sending it to the families.
Whether it was going to the families or maybe even going
organizations
to,
that go towards
sexually abused women and stuff like that. Also, if you've ever watched that 70s show and you've wondered why in later seasons Donna is blonde, that film is the reason.
Oh, Donna.
Yeah, Donna. It's Donna from the 70s show. Yes.
She was Karla?
She was Karla. So Alex Voss, Orange is the New Black, she is Karla. That actress was Karla. Oh,
shit. See, I'm not good with names of actors. Wow.
Yeah, so Donna, when in the 70s show, she is Karla. She portrays Karla. And so if you've watched the later seasons, even you ever wondered why she goes from redhead to blonde, that film is the reason.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yep.
I feel bad for them. That's the
Valentine's bonus episode.
Yeah.
The what did I come up with the title for? Deadly Devotion.
Deadly Devotion. Yeah.
That just goes to show you how sick and twisted people can really be. And that you should always, one, really vet who your connections are.
Honestly.
But also make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Make note of things. If something seems off, make a note of it. Tell someone.
Yeah.
You know, you're not alone. You're not crazy.
No.
There's resources.
Tell somebody. Somebody will listen.
Yeah.
So don't ever be afraid to speak up.
Don't suffer in silence.
No, absolutely not. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. But yeah.
With that being said, if you stomached this whole episode,
You're a trooper.
You're a trooper.
First of all.
And make sure you take care of yourself. You know, get some water, go get some fresh air. Try not to take the tragedies that happened home with you. And that goes for any true crime thing you may watch, whether it's TV shows, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever you watch.
Yeah.
Don't internalize that. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.